I am so excited to hear that you are wanting to become a fiber enthusiast who wants to learn how to spin their own yarn, or even to the point of processing their own fibers. Now, there is a lot to go over in this series, but in today's video, we are going to be talking about the options that you have as far as choosing a spinner and what is going to be in your best interest as a beginner. Hi and welcome to Sweet Pea Seeds Inspirations. My name is Sydney and I've been learning how to spin and process fibers over the last 2 years. No, I am not a professional by any means, but I have been in those beginner stages. Now in today's video, I'm not going to be able to cover all of the information that there is about drop spindles, electric spinners, and manual spinning wheels, but use this as a reference guide and do your own research. I will also be linking some videos down in the description box for you on some videos that I feel will cover some of the topics that I talk about in today's video a little bit more into depth, especially when we get to manual spinning wheels, because there's a lot to know about manual spinning wheels. If you are a fiber enthusiast who's watching this and you feel like I have left out some important information or details, please put those down in the comments section so other people can see that. Along with, if you have any kind of questions, feel free to ask those down in the comment section or even email me, because at the end of the series, I will be doing a Q&A video on any kind of questions throughout the series. Now let's dive into drop spindles. So there is two types of drop spindles. You have a supported, which you don't see very often in today's time, and I'm not very familiar with them, so I can't speak much about them, but they are going to have to be supported in some kind of way or form, whether that be on a tabletop or on the floor, or I guess any kind of other fashion way or form. And then you have the suspended, which is what you are going to see more in modern times and might actually even be better for you as a beginner. So, which is the ones that you see somebody drafting fiber apart and then they take the shaft and they spin the shaft. That is a suspended drop spindle. Now, when talking about suspended drop spindles, I'm going to be going over the two more commonly known ones. Now, obviously, there is more than just the two basic ones that I will be going over, but the first one is going to be the top or the high whirl. And this is the most common one that you will see, meaning that the whirl, which is the circle part of the drop spindle, unfortunately, I do not have a drop spindle to share with you guys exactly what I mean, but the whirl will actually sit on top of the shaft, and the shaft is the stick-looking part of the drop spindle. So after you have gotten your twist into the yarn will actually wind onto the shaft that is sitting underneath the whirl. Now, the second one is the low or the bottom whirl, which is opposite of the top whirl, meaning that the whirl is actually going to sit at the bottom of the shaft, and after you've got the twist in your yarn, the yarn will wind onto the shaft that's above the whirl. So those are the two more commonly known ones. Now, obviously, like I stated, there is more than just the two, but if you want to learn more about that, then please, again, do your own research. Now, what you need to look for when you are looking at drop spindles and spinning yarn on the drop spindles is two things that you have to consider: is the weight of the drop spindle, and that's going to determine the speed of the drop spindle. So obviously, the lighter the drop spindle is, the faster it is going to spin. And these are great for lighter weight, thinner yarn. And then obviously the opposite of that, if you're wanting to spin chunky yarn, then you are going to need a heavier, wider drop spindle. With chunky yarn, you don't need as much as a twist than you would need in a finer weight yarn. So that's why the drop spindle has to be heavier when you are spinning chunkier yarn. Now, if you're unsure of which spindle that you need to get as far as the weight distribution goes, then the best thing for you to do is to look at beginner-friendly drop spindle kits. And I will make sure that there's going to be links down in the description box for you so that you can go check those out if you're wanting to start off first with a drop spindle. Moving forward to electric spinners. Now, there's not too much to consider when you are looking at electric spinners other than two things. The first thing is going to be the size of the bobbin. And the size of the bobbin is going to determine on how much yarn you're actually going to be able to spin on that one single bobbin. So the bigger the bobbin that you get, the more yarn you're going to spin. The smaller the bobbin, the less yarn you're going to be able to spin. So for example, here, I have my electric nano that I have gotten from Dreamin' Robots. This is only a 2-ounce bobbin. So I'm only going to be able to spin about 2 ounces of fiber onto this bobbin. Versus if I was to get a 6-ounce or an 8-ounce bobbin, I'm going to be able to spin 6 ounces or 8 ounces onto those bobbins. So again, the smaller the bobbin, the less yarn you're going to be able to spin. The bigger bobbin, the more yarn you're going to spin. So that's one thing that you're going to want to consider when you are looking at electric spinners. The other component that you want to look out for is tension bands. And I will actually be going over this a little bit more with you when I start talking about manual spinning wheels. But there is 2 types of tension bands. There is the Irish tension and there is the Scotch tension. Again, I will be going over these a little bit more when I start talking about manual spinning wheels. Now, in my last video, I stated that I recommend electric spinners over drop spindles or even manual spinning wheels. And the reasoning for that is I feel like you're going to be able to get a lot more out of your electric spinner than you will as a drop spindle. With a drop spindle, you're going to be able to learn the overall concept of how to draft your fibers, and you're going to be able to learn how to do a long draw. Now, on an electric spinner or a manual spinning wheel, you're going to be able to achieve that accomplishment as well, but you're also going to be able to learn how to do a short draw. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of recommend an electric spinner over a drop spindle, and why I kind of recommend it over a manual spinning wheel when first starting off is the hand-foot coordination. You're not going to be able to get that right off the bat, and in fact, it took me months to actually get the foot-hand coordination and get my yarn to be consistent on a manual spinning wheel versus a electric spinner. Plus, if you have any kind of physical hindrances, then electric spinner is going to be in your best option. Not to mention, you're going to be able to get more out of electric spinner as far as spinning the yarn than you will a drop spindle. So those are some of the reasons why I recommend electric spinner over a manual or even a drop spindle. And I know they're a little bit more costly, but you can find the cheaper option ones, which is from Dreamin' Robots, which are called the Nanos. And I will make sure that there is a link down in the description box of those electric spinners if you want to check those out. I also want to mention the fact that the electric spinners are easy to travel with. You can get a battery pack that is compatible for your electric spinner, but you can also get a car charger to hook up to your electric spinner if that is something that you want to do in the car if you're traveling long distance. Now, also another reason why I recommend an electric spinner over a drop spindle is if you decide later on that you want to get a manual spinning wheel, the transition between an electric spinner and a manual spinning wheel is going to be more smooth sailing than I feel as if you were to get a drop spindle versus electric spinner. So those are just some of the reasons why I believe, again, these are just my opinions. You do what you feel like is going to be best for you. Manual spinning wheels, which are loads and loads of fun. And when you're sitting there just going at your own beat, treadling, drafting your yarn, and spinning, putting the twist in the yarn, sometimes it'll take you back into place of what your ancestors used to do. Unfortunately, the downfall of manual spinning wheels is that they can be high maintenance because you do have to take care of them in a different way than what you will an electric spinner or even a drop spindle. Now, with having more parts to them, there is some parts on here that you do have to make sure that they continue to stay greased. So, like I said, they can be high maintenance, but they're loads of fun and it's really, really enjoyable. And sometimes it's to the point where you might even fall asleep like I do when spinning. Now, I don't actually fall asleep, but I kind of go into a daze. So when you're looking at manual spinning wheels, there is abundance of options. There's antique, there's vintage, and there's modern spinning wheels. Now, for me, in my opinion, I feel like a modern time spinning wheel is going to probably be in your best interest. The reasoning behind that is when you're looking at antique or vintage, obviously they have been around for years after years. And sometimes some people don't take care of them in the best way. And they could be really ran down. There could be parts that are missing. There's a lot of things that you have to consider when you are looking at antique or vintage spinning wheels. Yes, they can come at a better price, but there's a lot to consider when you are looking at the antique or the vintage spinning wheels. And they're even a little bit more high maintenance than modern, where they do have more time on them. They are more delicate than a modern time spinning wheel. And sometimes you will also find these to have a double drive band, which I've heard and I've read that they're not the best option for beginners, just because you really need to know how to work them and use them and really kind of research. And I'll make sure that there is a video down in the description box for you, because I can't really explain that. But there are some wonderful videos out there that will be able to explain the double drive band. What is a drive band? Well, a drive band is what's going to determine your ratio of speed. Now, there is going to be some videos, again, down in the description box for you that's going to go over the double drive band and the single drive band, but also the Irish tension and the Scotch tension, because I can't put them into correct terms. So you have a little bit of homework to do, but I'll briefly go over the two different types of tension bands. So you have an Irish tension band and you have the Scotch tension band. The Irish tension band is what is going to be bobbin led, and it's actually going to sit on the flyer wheel, versus the Scotch tension is going to be flyer led and it's going to be sitting on the bobbin itself. Again, there will be videos down in the description box that will go more into depth of how those work and what they are in the description box. But when you're also looking at manual spinning wheels, there's also different types of treadles. You have a single treadle and you also have a double treadle. I personally like the double treadle. It's a lot more fun and I just like the way it pedals. So I hope this video kind of helps you and kind of guides you on what you need to look out for when you're choosing a spinner, whether it be drop spindle, electric, or a manual spinning wheel. And if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to ask those away in the comment section, along with if you feel like I've left out any kind of information. If you're a fiber enthusiast, please put that down in the comments so other people can see. Now, in the next video for the beginner series, I am going to be talking about the different types of fibers, what to look out for, and what to consider when you're starting off. So if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to hit that like, share, comment, or subscribe button, but also stay tuned for the third part of this series.